Hey, what's going on, guys? Jamal Long here, providing you guys with another trading recap. And so today was an action-packed day. Oh my goodness. I was up big, I was down, then I came back. So I'll walk you guys through the entire recap right now. I took three trades overall. I took a Bank of America trade. I took the SPY. I love trading the SPY. It's been well to me. It's been doing some good things for me. And I also took a position on Square, right? And so I had two winners, Bank of America and the SPY position I took, but then I had a huge loss on Square, right? And so typically for me, I wouldn't trade Square because it's just a volatile stock. And volatility just means that it moves pretty quickly in such a way that if you're on the wrong side of a position, you could get crushed in a few seconds, right? So typically, I try to stay away from it, but I just jumped in this morning, completely going against my principles, but decided to trade it and ended up losing. But had I held on for a few minutes, about 30 or 40 minutes, I would have actually made out pretty well on a position. But overall, no complaints. I was able to make a, to the penny what I had lost on my Square position. I made that back trading the SPY. So things kind of worked out today. And overall, I'll tell you guys about get started with Bank of America. So Bank of America, and I'll be transitioning from because I'm using two screens, but Bank of America, I decided to trade Bank of America yesterday, right? Just before the close of the market. And so I noticed that we had some huge red candles, right, on no news. And I said to myself, well, hey, what's going on here? Why is this dropping when there's no news, right? I try to find something, but the entire market was falling. And typically, you'll see stocks act in sympathy towards other stocks. And so when the SPY falls, you'll see every other stock tends to fall unless there's some huge earnings or something which is a catalyst for the stock to continue to go higher. But for the most part, that's what happened. The SPY did the same thing yesterday. It just dropped. And for me, I said, hey, let's take advantage of this. Let's buy some Bank of America call options because Bank of America, it found a level of support. 29 has been a huge level of support for Bank of America. And I've plotted this out for some time. So I've been just watching this. And as it came down, I ended up buying in. And so I was like, hey, let's hold overnight. I paid about 150 bucks for them. I bought 10 contracts, paid about 150 bucks. And I said, hey, let's see what happens tomorrow. I just want to make 100 bucks on it. And so this morning, we saw this huge gap up. The overall market was gapping up. And so as you can see this morning, when Bank of America opened, right, pre-market, it was just holding these levels. It gapped up significantly, right? And so I'm like, hey, let's follow this trend and see what happens. And so that's exactly what I did. I just followed this movement, and I ended up jumping out about around 29.57, right? And the reason why I jumped out at 29.57 is because for the past few days, that has acted as a level of resistance. What's going on? Yeah, so about this 63 level has been acting as a level of resistance for the past few days. And so I said to myself, hey, you know what? Let's get out ahead of time in anticipation for that breakdown, right? And as you can see, it came up here, touched that level before pulling back hard, right? Now, granted, overall, the overall market has pulled back significantly over the past few minutes, but look at that huge pullback, and it's been doing that for the past few days, right? So right here, nice little pullback. Right here, came up, pulled back. Right here, pulled back. And so you see that same continuation. And that's the thing about it. Once you're able to identify these trends within these stocks, that's when you can capitalize. And so that's what I try to take advantage of, identifying these trends. And then once I find those trends, then just taking advantage, right? And that's a clear setup, right? So clear setup. I jumped in last night when I was down here. This morning sold at 330 bucks, 35 bucks, right? So that was a huge win. I started off the morning up 335 bucks. I said, you know what? Hey, it's a great day. Let's see what else is out there, right? And so next on my list was Square, right? So let's pull up Square. That's Q. So Square, as you can see, yesterday we had some earnings, and so ended up dropping initially, but held this level of support before rallying, right? And so this morning I said, oh wow, it's dropping, right? I saw it on my radar and it just continued to drop. And so I ended up jumping in to this position around, where did I jump in? So I think I jumped in about right here. Yeah, so I jumped in about 78, 80 something ish. No, it couldn't have been right there. Yeah, it probably was. No, so actually I jumped in right here. So 78.30 is where I jumped in, right? I completely did not do enough research. I think this was a much more FOMO, and FOMO just stands for fear of missing out. And so even though I was already up, this was a FOMO trade, right? I'm like, hey, you know what? It's down already. It's going to continue to drop. I hadn't plotted my lines. I hadn't plotted my other levels of support, but I did have my this level of support plotted, right? So this was the only thing that I was trading off of. And I said to myself, well, hey, it's going to go down to this level, right? Not realizing that we had some intermediate levels of support, right? And so as you can see now at 11:55, it actually hit that level and bounced nicely, right? But that's where I was expecting it to go, right? I was expecting it to come down here to this green line. And as you can see, it did, but just not in the time frame in which I decided to jump in. So I jumped in around this 30 level, ended up dropping. So I was up briefly, but then it ended up bouncing, right? And so for me, typically when I see stocks do this, bounce hard, sometimes I will just jump out of the position, or sometimes I'll hold. But in this case, I said to myself, hey, let's jump out because you do not want to be, Square is a volatile stock and you do not want to be on the wrong side. Now, granted, had it ran up to this level, right, and it can do that, right? As you can see yesterday, right, was a huge gap down, right, for rallying hard. And so you do not want to be on the other side of this trade. And so knowing what I know about, knowing what I know about this stock, I did not want to be on the wrong side. So I just jumped out. I said, you know what? It's moving too fast. I'm not trying to take a huge loss. And I wanted to at least capture some wins, right? So with me losing on this position, I was up only 105 bucks, right? Because my Bank of America position was 335, and then losing 230 bucks on this position was a bummer. So I said, you know what? Let's wait. Let's be patient. Stick to your fundamentals and get back to business, right? And so that's exactly what I did. That's exactly what I did. And I ended up losing. I jumped out about right in this area. But I could have held this position had I plotted this level of resistance, right? Because clearly it was knocking up against this level of resistance. I wasn't thinking, it was more so one of those trades where I just jumped in. So I hadn't really game planned my strategy before making a position, before taking a position. So I didn't plot anything. So it was more so just jump in, jump out, right? Losing 230 bucks. And then had I held this position, it would have been a nice little flush. And as you can see, it continued to nice flush, right? So that's square. I lost some money. Going forward, for me, one of the things in retrospective that I would do differently is don't just jump in, right? Typically for me, I always take calculated risk based on stocks that I'm aware of and I know, which is why you'll see me trade like Microsoft, the SPY, Bank of America, right? These are stocks you will constantly see me trade because I'm much more familiar with them. I like their price action, even though Bank of America tends to move slow when it does, but it moves nonetheless. And so I try to stick with the same stocks. And so that's square. What I'll do going forward is make sure that, hey, I make informed decisions. I make do the proper analysis before taking the actual trade itself. And sometimes just sticking with the trade itself as well, right? Because when this initially happened, I think I jumped out around this on this candle right here. But just identifying that level of resistance, it not breaking that level before breaking below trend and, drifting lower. So, that's square. And then we have the SPY. So the SPY, and excuse my charts, it's so much going on these charts, but I tend to plot everything that I can see so that I can make an informed decision, going back to informed decisions, while trading. And so with the SPY, it was we had a sense of direction, right? And so I saw that the SPY was weak, right back here, right? I was just watching it, but during that time, I had just jumped out of the square position, right? So I was watching it right here. This entire time I was watching it, right? So I'm watching it, and then as it got right around this level, I said to myself, "Hey, let's watch this." And so I did not see it make a new high, right? And so typically, ideally on these stocks, you want to see it break above this level of resistance, and that did not happen, right? And so I said, "Oh wow, let's be patient, but there is some chance for a trade. There's a chance for a trade." And so that's exactly what I was watching. Mind you, I had plotted this level of resistance, right? This descending level of resistance as a clear gauge to where and when I should exit, right? And so for me, I said, that's perfect, right? Let's take a position. So it could not break through this level of descending resistance. I ended up jumping in about, I waited. I waited for a long time before I actually took the position. So I jumped in this position about right here. Actually, let's switch to the 1 minute because I typically don't trade with the 5 minute candlestick charts. I typically trade with the 1 minute. So let's switch to the 1 minute and I can show you guys what I saw value in. And so as you can see, when it broke above this level, right, and it could not hold, that was the perfect time. That was a perfect entry, right? And so I ended up jumping in as this candle, you see this huge wick right here. Once we saw that downward pressure being pushed, so that means that the price action is being pushed down. And so I ended up jumping in right there, right? So I jumped in around 279.30, And then I just took this ride all the way down here. And as you can see, I applied this level of resistance up here, which perfectly coincided with the level of support in which the SPY used to bounce, right? And as you can see, it's running right now. So I could have actually jumped right back into this position knowing what I knew and took this position long and bought some call options. So I ended up buying some put options right here as it went down and was able to, I bought 10, spent about, I don't know, about 160 bucks or something, or 100 and yeah, about 150 bucks, and was able to make 230 bucks on a position, which canceled out my square position. So overall on the day, up 330 bucks with my Bank of America position. It's like, sheesh, man, you could have just stuck with your one trade and been green on a day. Or I could have just waited to take the spot, right? Instead of just jumping in on something that I'm unfamiliar with and, you know, taking a huge loss. Now, granted, it cancels out, but initially I was upset at myself because I'm like, dude, you had one position, you were green, and how do you mess it up, man? Like, how? But overall, no complaints. I was able to capture those gains back, and so yeah, just looking forward to looking forward to this continued run. And so, no green day. I mean, knock on wood. Let me not speak of that just yet, but I'm still green, right? Still green on a year, still green. So yeah, it's a good feeling. So I hope you guys are able to take something from this. Um, I think the number one thing is never give in the fear of missing out, or FOMO, as you'll hear the acronym, right? Don't give in to FOMO. Um, Stick to your principles, and you'll do just fine. And so, on that note, it's the weekend, so I'm actually recovering from a cold. So I don't think I'll be doing much this weekend. Probably analyzing some stocks. But yeah, hopefully we'll pick this back up on Monday morning. If not, actually Monday I'll be busy. But yeah, we'll pick it back up soon, and I'll let you guys know. But until then, have a great weekend, and yeah, enjoy.